everyone, welcome to Fatema's Art Show. Today I thought I'll do an episode just to kind of help all my art students out there, or anyone interested in knowing how to write about artwork. And while I was a student myself and also teaching art and design, I met a lot of students that really struggled with this bit, and writing about artwork can be a bit tricky sometimes, especially when you go into the course thinking that it's just going to be creating things and making things and using your imagination and using different materials, and it is all these things, but also it does involve a lot of writing, surprisingly, and a lot of people don't know that when they start the course. So before I kind of dive into all the different things that well, different tips I'm going to give you that will help you with that, with writing about artwork, annotating your sketchbook, I just wanted to sort of just quickly mention the importance of a sketchbook. And a lot of students, they look at their sketchbooks, and because it can be quite a long process, and they'll be like, why do I have to do this? Why do I have to do a sketchbook? What's the point? What's the point of, you know, doing artist research? What's the point of writing about different artwork and my artwork? And why can't I just make art without talking about it or writing about it? Why is there a need for that? Well, there's a need for that because the sketchbook is like the artist's journey, your journey toward this end product, this fantastic piece that you're going to be creating at the end. And just instantly by a teacher looking at your art sketchbook, they can see the journey you've taken, the different materials you've tried out, the different techniques, the artists that have inspired you, so they can see all of these things. So it's a good way for a teacher to assess any artwork, any art piece, rather than just the end product. Also, it does help you as an artist. I mean, artists, professional artists, they use sketchbooks because it helps them kind of, again, sort of inspires them and leads them to that journey that they need to get to before they end up with this final product. So it also could be a development of a piece or something. So the importance of a sketchbook is very important, and I just thought I'll just touch on that, just because, like I said, a lot of people, they not sure why they have to do it, you know. Yeah, so going back to the tips now, I'm going to give you a few tips to help you. So when you've got an art piece in front of you, whether it's in your sketchbook or you've just kind of printed it off the net or from an artist's research that you've kind of gone into and researched, you might be thinking, what do I say about this art piece? How do I talk about it? How do I write? How could I put it into writing? How can I do that? So follow these tips and hopefully you'll be able to do that. So the first tip I have is the initial feeling you get when you look at an art piece. Now, this is a really good start to writing about any piece, any art piece. Think about how does the piece make you feel. Now, a lot of students, they get stuck with, this piece is interesting because I like this piece, I hate this piece. If you hate this piece, it's fine, you're entitled to have that opinion, but just you know, say why you despise it so much. Is there something specific that makes you feel a certain way, and maybe it reminds you of something in the past, maybe it gives a happy, joyful feeling that you've had, as again might be linked to something that you've experienced perhaps. So, you know, the initial feeling is an amazing thing to start with, so just first of all think about that. Tip number 2. Now, tip number 2 is, someone actually told me this. They said to me the best way to write about an art piece is to pretend you're talking to a blind person, someone that cannot see what's in front of you, what's in front of them, and how could you possibly describe in detail, you know, what the piece is, you know. So sometimes you might be looking at a piece, you might be a bit stuck, so just kind of think about these things. How can you give a blind person a clear picture, or close to clear picture of what is in front of you? So really think about that. So that's tip number 2. There's something in art called formal elements, and this is a great tip. This is tip number 3, and I want you to really think about this one because this is an important tip that's really going to help you. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to kind of try to break it up so that you don't get too confused. But what formal elements are, they're basically different things put together that create an art piece. So you've got line, you've got tone, you've got color, you've got pattern, you've got shape, you've got all these different things. And if you think about all these things when you're looking at an art piece, it'll help you talk about the art piece better. The first one I'm going to talk about is line. Now think about line when you're looking at an art piece. Are there horizontal lines? Are there vertical lines? Are the lines contouring a particular form or particular shape? Also, are the lines coarse and hard? You know, that kind of gives a different feeling than if it was so soft and gentle lines in an art piece. So really think about that also. Is the line creating movement in the art piece? That could be another one that you could think about. Shape is a pretty easy one. Are there different shapes in the art piece? Are they geometric shapes? Are circles, triangles? Just think about shape. What shapes do you see? Form, when you're looking at a sculpture, you may be able to see different form. Is it a cube? Is it a cone? Is it a sphere? What sort of form does the piece have? Also, if you're looking at a 2D image, form can be shown by using perspective and tone to create the illusion of form. So think about that also. So yeah, form. Tone, so when something goes from light to dark, when the light is hitting a particular image, whether it's a, you know, 2-dimensional image or a 3-dimensional image, what sort of tone can you see? Are there shadows? Think about these sorts of things. Texture, then now there's actual texture and there's visual texture. So there's actual texture that has been used by materials and different things, probably mixed into the paint, or maybe the paint itself, or you know, that's created in the art piece, and you can actually see the texture in the piece. Or there's visual texture. There might not be actual texture, but because of the way the piece is painted, it looks like that it has texture. So think about that. And also you know, things like texture as well as other formal elements can lead you to experiment and think about what sort of things you want to do. So if the texture is nice, if they've used a particular material and it's allowed the texture to come through in the art piece, maybe you want to kind of try that out and see how it ends up with your art piece. So always thinking about what you can get from an art piece is quite important as well. Pattern. Now patterns created when you use repeated lines, repeated shapes. You see pattern, and really think about that. Also there's natural pattern, which you can see in animal fur and things like that, or there is man-made pattern that can be created as well. So think about these things. What sort of patterns can you see in an art piece, if there is any? Color. Now I'm not going to talk too much about color because it can be sort of an open window of lots of different things. So I'm just going to say I did do an episode about the color wheel and explaining color theory. If you want to take a look at that, I do explain about warm colors and cool colors and how they affect an art piece and how it makes us feel. Also if you look at the color wheel, complementary colors and lots of different things you need to consider when you're thinking about color. Some artists use limited color, so they just select a few colors and they create an art piece out of it. So you can talk about what sort of colors you can see, what colors they've used. And finally, composition. Now it's used by musicians, it's used by writers, it's used by photographers. Composition, to compose an image. It's the arrangement of particular aspects in an art piece. So where is everything placed? What is in the foreground? What is in the background? For instance, if it's kind of like a portrait drawing, if a particular person is placed in the foreground, they look a lot bigger and they, you know, it says a lot about an art piece. Why would the person be in the foreground and taking charge of the whole piece and being in the front, and how does that make you feel? If there's, you know, just small sort of figures at the background, you know, you can see something in the distance, what does that mean? So think about foreground, background, how everything is composed. So that could be really important. Also there's the rule of thirds, which I'm not going to go into. I will put details about the rule of thirds in my description box if you want to know about that. So the fourth tip is, sometimes I'm going to kind of say this tip is for when you've created art pieces in your sketchbook. How do you talk about them? Now, obviously talk about what has inspired you to create that piece, okay? So what have you gotten from other art pieces that you've looked at? What have you observed from other art pieces that have, you know, it could be a particular technique that you've just tried out and you just want to talk about it. So just talk about it, just write about what you have, what the technique is. Has it worked out? Has it not worked out? Do you feel like you want to continue with that technique? And also think about the development of the piece. You constantly think about the development of the piece. Where is it taking you? Or if you're doing lots of different experiments, lots of different techniques, you could talk about each particular technique. So the fourth tip is really where you're going, and it's kind of analyzing your journey, as I said. So just constantly analyzing your journey through the work that you're making is really important. So tip number 5, and tip number 5 is just enjoy it. Just enjoy the making artwork, enjoy writing about it, and when you are making the art piece, constantly think about what you would write as well. A lot of people, they kind of just create art piece for the sake of creating art piece, to put something in their sketchbook, and that is perfectly fine. But while you're creating the art piece, have that little thought in your mind of thinking, okay, where is this heading? Where is this going? What am I actually doing? What sort of colors am I actually using? You know, and all these things, all these thoughts that you're going to be thinking about, those you could write about. So it's kind of what you already know, and it becomes so easy afterwards when you actually come down and sit down and actually have to write about an art piece, because you've kind of already been thinking about it, and it's your artwork. It's also all your artist research, so it will be a lot easier to write about it. So that's tip number 5. So thank you very much for watching this episode. I hope it's helped you guys, and I just got out the sketchbook now. I don't know why I've got the sketchbook out, but I have. But anyway, you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook, and I will see you guys next week, hopefully, when I release my next episode. Thank you very much for watching. Bye bye.